Welcome to the Super Subs with
Andrew
and Harry, where we talk about anything and everything related to football. This episode, this week, we're going to be talking specifically about offsides. So this very mystical, magical rule that no one really truly knows how to interpret, including some referees. I won't get too much into that right now, but there's starting to be technology introduced for this rule. A lot of people want to understand more about this rule, especially if you're a newer fan into the sport of football or soccer. So we thought we would do a quick little episode describing offsides in its entirety. So we'll get into that. Before we begin, though, Andrew, what are you drinking on the pod today?
So I just want to shout out that we're actually recording in person.
Yes, high five.
High five. This is our second in-person recording that we've done, so pretty exciting. But right now I'm actually going with a nitro cold brew.
Love it.
It feels like a pinkies up kind of moment where
pinkies up.
It's not just cold brew; it's nitro cold brew.
Nitro.
So
it's very foamy. That's the nitro, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's kind of like the Guinness of coffee, so to speak.
Oh, sophisticated man.
Yeah, Harry, what do you got right now?
I've got an oat milk espresso, shaken espresso, and it has some brown sugar in it.
Okay.
So this is one of those Starbucks drinks.
Yeah.
I know we won't get a sponsorship from Starbucks, which is okay, but shout out to Starbucks anyways. You've kept my life in order sometimes.
Yep.
I go with you, not all the time for coffee. I'm rambling too much now. But anyways, Starbucks has some good drinks, this drink included, and it's a great sipper. So let's get right into it, offsides. So, Andrew, I'd love to hear your thoughts on offsides. As a newer fan, when you first got into the sport of football or soccer, offsides was one of these things that I feel like you used a good word on one of our previous episodes, nebulous. Very nebulous. Some rules of football or soccer are very nebulous. Offsides is one of those things where not that many people have an understanding about it. What was your understanding about it growing up and trying to understand the rule when you were playing football or soccer when you were a kid?
Sure. Yeah. It was tricky as a little kid because all you wanted to do is score goals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could cherry pick, I would cherry pick all day. Mm-hmm. But this is the exact reason why the rule is in place.
Yeah.
And we'll go into that later, but it's to prevent things like that. So I felt like as I grew up, as an American, continued to progress throughout my playing career.
Yeah.
Offsides was something that I became more and more aware of. It not only became something to be aware of as an attacking player, but also I had a spell of my playing career where I played as a defender. Yep. And we would try to put high lines, try to catch offending players offside, things like that. So it became a real tactical necessity as we got older.
Yeah.
So, Harry, thoughts on your end, offsides growing up?
Yeah, offsides was one of those things where I feel like the rule was I didn't understand it too much growing up as a player. I played actually right back for a long time, usually not center back because I wasn't big or tall enough, but right back. Those of you new to the game will have an episode specifically about different positions in the future, but right back is when you're playing on the right side of the field, on your own side of the field, and you're playing back towards the back of your own team. And if you're playing on the right wing, you're playing more on the right side as an attacking player down the wing or down the right side of the field. And if you're playing an attacking midfielder, a central midfielder, if you're playing a striker, which is a forward, if you're playing a center back, all these names correlate to different positions. So I usually played a defender. And all I remembered is that you wanted to make sure you were as close to the attacker as possible. And it was okay sometimes for them to be ahead of you, closer to the goal, because something called offsides would be called. Because if they somehow got the ball first and they were miles ahead of you, the whistle would be blown. And sometimes I had no idea why, how, or when it was blown.
The old offside trap.
Yeah, the offside trap that I didn't even know I was putting on. Yeah, I was trapping myself, to be honest, Andrew. But as a kid, I didn't really have a clear understanding until I really researched the rule on my own when I was playing more high school soccer. And I was like, oh, this is what offsides means. So hopefully, as a listener today, if you're watching the pod, if you're listening to the pod on one of the platforms, you can get a little bit of a better understanding of what offsides is. And we'll go right into that. So Andrew, can you give us a really basic overview of, before we get into the history or what it is in specifics, give us a bird's eye view of what offsides is as it's known today in the game of football or soccer?
Sure. Yeah. So a player is caught offside if they are nearer to the opponent's goal than both the ball and the second to last opponent, including the goalkeeper.
Got it.
When their teammate plays the ball to them.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit. So let's start from the first part of that phrase.
Sure.
The player is caught offsides if he's nearer to the opponent's goal. So as an attacking player, I'm an attacking player, and the opponent is you.
Yep.
Your goal is the one that I'm running towards.
Yep.
So it says if a player is caught offsides if he's nearer to the opponent's goal than both the ball and the second to last opponent, including the goalkeeper. So what does that part mean? The second to last opponent, including the goalkeeper. Can you break that down a little bit for the listeners?
Sure. Yeah. So it's important to note that you can be level with the last defender, that second player, and not be offside.
Got it. Okay.
But if you are between the last defender and the goalkeeper and the ball is played to you, you are offside.
Got it.
It's important to note, though, this is an important distinction. If you are in a, quote, offside position in your own half, so let's say the ball is played to you, you're in your own half, and all the defenders are caught up, and you receive the ball in your own half, and you just run towards the opposing goal, you are not offside. So offside is only applicable if you're in the opposing half.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So, Andrew, tell me a little bit more about the visualization. So,
sure, yeah.
Obviously, we're narrating on a podcast. We don't have all the fancy graphics that a lot of other resources have. So, let's break it down a little bit. And I'll give you two scenarios. You tell me whether or not they're offsides.
Perfect, yeah.
So, I'm running at you with the ball. I have the ball at my feet. I'm an attacker. You're a defender. And there's a goalkeeper behind you that's guarding the goal. So I'm running towards your goal. If my teammate passes the ball to me and I'm in front of you, meaning I'm facing you, but I haven't yet gotten to you. So you are between me and the goal, and the goalkeeper's in between me and the goal. So there's two people between me and the goal that I'm trying to run towards and shoot.
Yep.
Is that or is that not offsides?
It is not offsides.
Not offsides.
Yep, exactly. You have two people between you and the goal.
Okay, so another scenario. Let's say we're fighting for the ball. We're shoulder to shoulder. I receive the ball from my teammate, and I am completely level with you. So all parts of my body, let's say in some kind of crazy scenario, are exactly the same, parallel to you when I receive the ball from my teammate. So you're next to me, and then the goalkeeper's in front of the goal. So that's technically two people from your team.
Yeah.
But am I offsides if I'm level with you and the goalkeeper's there?
You are not.
I'm not offsides.
If you are level with that second player, you are not offsides. And it's important to note as well. So it can come down to parts of the body. Quite literally parts of the body. So if my hand or my arm is in front of you, I'm not offside.
Okay.
But if anything running down the middle of my body, my head, my chest, my legs, my feet is in front of you or between you and the goal, that is offside.
Got it. So it's pretty much parts of your body that can actually touch the ball usually in play. Okay.
Yeah, give you that advantage.
Got it. So if my foot, and this is the third scenario, I think, Andrew, you set it up perfectly. If my foot, let's say my toe was about 4 inches right in front of you. So let's say technically every other part of our body is level. So we're fighting for the ball. But somehow I extend my left foot to receive the ball as it's being passed to me from my teammate. And it's in front of you about 3 to 4 inches closer to the goal in front of you. So if I receive the ball in that situation, even if the foot that received the ball is behind you in a non-offsides position, if that part of my body is 3 to 4 inches in front of you, closer to the goal, Am I offsides then?
Yeah, so you've got a part of your body that
part
is
of my body
past that plane, that equal level plane with that second defender.
Got it.
Past the goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So breaking this phrase down, if we can zoom out, if any part of my body as an attacking player, besides my hands and arms, is in front of you closer to the goal that I'm trying to shoot on.
Yep.
And the ball is played to me, which means someone on my team passes it to me.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be offsides.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So let's break it down. Let's even get a little bit more nuanced.
Okay, sure.
So I'll give you a scenario. So let's say you're on a breakaway. You receive the ball in your own half. You sprint past that last defender, and you're heading just straight towards the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I'm the second attacker, and I'm running alongside you, but I'm slightly behind you.
Yeah.
So you're further ahead than me. If you play that ball slightly back towards me, and I score, is that a good goal?
It's a good goal.
It's a good goal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And the reason it's a good goal is because I'm not ahead of the ball.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not ahead of you as the person that's sprinting towards the goal, or whoever's sprinting towards the goal to actually shoot on the goal. And there's some nuances to this offsides rule, and we're not going to cover every single scenario in this episode, but there are some examples that we can give, like Andrew just gave.
Yeah.
So as an attacker, let's say, like Andrew said, you're clear on goal. There's two people, V1 against the goalkeeper.
Yep.
The second person that doesn't have the ball, that wants to receive the ball, has to be behind the ball all the time. And if they get a pass and they're behind the ball, then when they shoot and score, it's a valid goal. Okay. If they're in front of the ball, it still gives them an advantage, because then they could technically be in front of the goalkeeper or somehow cherry pick still. So really, this rule is to eliminate any kind of cherry picking or any kind of advantage, even if there's a breakaway 2v1 scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Gotcha.
Cool. So let's break apart the second part of the statement. So the first part of the statement is a player is caught offsides if he or she is nearer to the opponent's goal than both the ball and the second to last opponent, including the goalkeeper, when his or her teammate plays the ball to him.
Yeah.
So what does it mean from the statement when the teammate plays the ball to someone else? So walk the listener through what that means, Andrew.
Yeah. So when the ball is played is when the ball leaves your teammate's foot.
Got it. Okay.
So you can actually, modern day technology is great, and they can show the exact release point. So if you are any part of your body other than your arm or your hand is in front of that second to last player, being that defender, when the ball leaves your teammate's foot, then you're offside.
Very second leaves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that second. So, if you're a fast player and we're level and your teammate kicks the ball to you and you just blast off, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's, if you're fast, more power to you.
Got it.
As soon as that ball leaves the foot. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay. So for the listener, to sum it all up, and we'll go into a resource to really dig into this on your own if you want to understand more about what offsides is. For the listener, a good visualization would be at the very moment your teammate is passing you the ball, so right before it leaves their foot, take a picture of the whole field.
Yep.
So take a picture using some kind of camera, and then whatever that picture looks like, right as they're leaving, the ball is leaving your teammate's foot towards you, what kind of position are you in?
Yeah.
Is your foot millimeters in front of that second to last defender? If it is, you're offsides. If your hand or arm is in front of that second to last defenders, you are not offsides. So whatever that snapshot in time looks like, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about offsides is, it's so quick and it's the game, the play is moving so fast. How do you even call offsides? Don't really understand it. It applies sometimes and it doesn't apply any other time. It always is analyzed during a snapshot in time. It's not a few moments, a few seconds. It's always that very small millisecond when the ball leaves the player's foot. And I think, Andrew, you put it perfectly. That's why it's so important to know exactly when it leaves the player's foot. That's when offsides can be analyzed. And that's where you see if the attacking player is in an offsides position or not.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of moving forward, if you have any other further questions, we actually found a great resource online. So we're not in any way affiliated with Washington Post, but they have a great interactive offside demonstration, definition, specifically for the 2022 World Cup. So we'll throw the link in the description. Check it out if you need any more guidance. It is very nuanced, like we've been talking about. And even, you and I are, constantly learning and brushing up. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit, Harry. Sure. Let's go into the history, because this has evolved, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So from 1863, and by the way, football, or soccer as it's known in various places in the world, started many, many years ago, even centuries ago. And the offsides rule as we knew it wasn't actually implemented until the latter half of the 1800s. So in 1863, the first form of offsides as we know it was actually 3 players instead of 2 players. So you had to have the goalie and 2 defenders in front of you between you and the goal for you not to be offsides. So let's say, Andrew, you are the player that passes to me. We're on the same team.
Okay.
And I'm an attacking player. You're passing it to me to hopefully get in on goal. There has to be 3 players, including the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper can be one of those players. 3 players on the team that's opposing us in front of me in order for me to not be offsides and for me to shoot on goal. Go in, shoot on goal.
Wow. So not even level. They have
not even level.
They have to be in front of you.
So they have to be fully in front of me, even if any part of my body's pretty much, if you draw a straight line across the field parallel, I can't even be in line with them at all. I can't, part of my even hand and arm at that point could not be level with the third to last defender at all when you played the ball to me.
Wow.
So that was 1863. In 1907, you actually could be offsides in your own half. Before, you actually couldn't be offsides in your own half. In 1907, you could then start to call offsides in your own half. So as a team that wanted to play a really high line, and a high line in football or soccer, just to explain it, break it down a little bit, is when your defensive line, so the players that are playing the backmost line of your team, pushes up very high so that you're pressuring the other team and trying to trap them into their own half. So in 1907, the rule was implemented so that you can actually be offsides in your own half. Before that, you could not be offsides in your own half. So you could actually cherry pick in your own half if the other team played a high line and then run towards the goal from there. In 1925, the rule actually changed closer to what it looks like today. So before, it used to be 3 players, including a goalie, had to be in front fully of the attacker for you not to be offsides. In 1925, it changed to 2 players in total. So 1 defender and a goalie. So that's what it is today. So second to last defender, and then the goalie has to be in front of you in order for you not to be offsides.
Okay, gotcha. And then when did this idea of being level with that second player come to effect?
Yeah, so about 65 years later, we had the idea of being level. And this makes sense because if you think about a sprint, let's think about a 100-meter dash. It's only fair if 2 of the same runners start at exactly the same pretty much part of the track. So if you have one starting behind the other runner or sprinter, it gives the person in front, I would say, a little bit of an unfair advantage, right? So the rule before 1990 was that the attacker actually couldn't even be level with the defender. So they actually had a little bit of a disadvantage when the ball was being played. So they actually had to make up a little bit of ground in order to get to the ball and to run in on goal and shoot. But in 1990, the rule changed so that all the attacker had to do was be completely level. So all parts of their body, this is not including the hands and arms, or excluding the hands and arms yet. So any part of their body has to be completely level when the ball's passed to them in order for them not to be offsides. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. And then what about this idea of the hands and arms not being included?
Yeah. So in 2005, FIFA finally changed the rule where that any part of your body that could play the ball can be considered in an offside scenario. But let's say your hand or arm. So Andrew, let's say you're the defender that's defending me.
Okay.
And I stuck my arm out like this to call for the ball, and it somehow got ahead of you when the ball is being passed to me, right? So before 2005, that would be considered offsides if I extended my hand and arm in front of you and the ball was played to me right away.
Okay.
But after 2005 or 2005 and after, because I can't even touch the ball with my hand or arm anyways to be considered a valid touch and for the game to keep going, FIFA decided to exclude hand and arms from being part of this offsides consideration. So you could have your hands and arms in a quote-unquote offsides position and still carry the ball forward and score a goal.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they adjust the rule. I think it's a little bit more fair like that.
Yeah, I think so, because it's not really giving you that much of an advantage, like you said.
No.
You know, if you play the ball through to me and I'm the attacker, and I, touch the ball with my hand, it's going to be called as a foul anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was a little bit about the history of offsides, and hopefully that gave you as the listener a little bit more insight into offsides, how it evolved over the years, why these rules are being added. You could see the little increments of FIFA as the governing body of football, adding little things that made a little bit more sense in terms of giving the attackers a little bit more of an advantage. And as the viewer, fans are what makes the lifeblood of football anyways. And we want to see exciting attacking football. We don't want to see teams just sitting back all the time, absorbing pressure. And this gives attackers a little bit more of an advantage in terms of being able to receive the ball, being level with the defender, having the exact same, I would say, scenario as a defender when you're taking off and being able to score on goal.
Yeah.
So last topic before we close, Andrew, I'd love to hear a little bit more of your thoughts. So what's the big deal about offsides? We have this rule. We broke down the rule. We broke down each part of the rule. We talked about the history of the rule a little bit, our own thoughts about the rule. So what's the big deal about offsides anyways? Tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit about why offsides was implemented and what it helps with in the game of football.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to this idea of cherry picking.
Yeah.
So if we didn't have offsides, there would be every incentive for the attacking players to hang out by the goal.
Sure.
I mean, why not? You could just sit there all day. Your goalkeeper or your other players could just pass the ball to you, and you could just be one-on-one versus the goalkeeper, and you could score a lot of goals. So not having offsides would make the game very attacking forward.
Very attacking.
It would make for a lot of goals. And then it would also make, conversely, it could also make the game very defensive. So if there were no offsides, you as a defender would have to hang back by your goalkeeper at all times to prevent that ball from being played to the attacking player and to score. So this idea of offsides really creates parity, right? So it creates this situation where the game is more balanced. It allows for this fair idea of play, fair build-up to plays, and it really prevents unfair advantages for teams to score goals.
Nice.
So, that's really what it comes down to. And for you as the listener, I mean, we can talk about, even more nuanced situations later on. If you're interested in that, definitely drop a comment, send us a note, and we can definitely do a pod all about, bystanders and, what happens if the goalie parries off a shot and another player's in an offside position. What does that look like? So definitely give us a shout if that's something you're interested in. But as we close this out, Harry, what are your final thoughts about offsides?
Yeah, I think as a listener, hopefully that gave you a little bit of a good overview into the specifics of offsides. And I think this is an important one to break down into its own episode because we see it so often. So when you see the linesman on the side, and if you've listened to our episode on rules and regulations, you should know that there's two linesmen, one on each side of the on the pitch or field. When they raise their flag, we see it so often in a football match that someone that goes on to score a goal is then called offsides, the play is brought back, and the goal doesn't count. And it could mean that make or break difference in someone winning, tying, or losing a game, and it's so crucial, right? So I think as you understand a little bit more about this offsides rule, understand how it's implemented and it's a frustrating rule to watch because if your team is the one trying to score goals and they're called offsides, you can feel very frustrated. But when you start to understand the meaning of the offsides rule, you can understand how it brings a little bit more parity, like Andrew said, and a little bit more balance to the game in total. So it's not just attackers, literally 3 attackers hanging out and crowding out the goalkeeper, and then your defense or midfield just booting it up to the attackers and trying to score on goal. It's not really a fun game at that point. So definitely keep that in mind. And as a listener, I'd actually challenge you to spot to see if you can start to understand what offsides looks like in games. Obviously, the whistle's going to be called, the flag's going to be blown. Sometimes, if the league has the technology, they'll have some kind of offsides triangulation, like Andrew said in the last episode, to spot if a player is in offsides position. Try to use the knowledge you got from this pod to see if you can understand whether or not it truly was an offsides call. Andrew, what about you? What do you think listeners should take away from this episode in watching a football match or explaining offsides to their friends? What are some tips and key takeaways?
Yeah, when you think about offsides, I think it's really just about thinking about having those 2 opposing players, in front of you. You can be level with that second to last player, but you need 2. And that's really all it comes down to. And you can have all the technology in the world, but, at the end of the day, if any part of your body other than your hands or arms is in front of that last player, then, that's what it comes down to. It's offsides. So, yeah, it can be, like you said, Harry, it can be very deciding as far as if goals go in, if they don't go in. Mm-hmm. It can be frustrating as fans, but at the end of the day, it is for the best interest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a little bit about offsides. Hope you as the listener enjoyed and learned a little bit more. And we're expecting all of you to explain this to all of your friends as well and spread the good knowledge of offsides. In the end, it's a good rule. And we both think, Andrew and I both think it's beneficial to the sport of football. So that was today's episode of the Super Subs with
Andrew
and Harry. Tune in next time. We're going to be talking a little bit about a few other topics. It could be the World Cup. It could be some other topics. If there's any guests that you want to see on the upcoming pods, like we just had Tim Rawlinson on for the World Cup as well as the U.S. men's national team, a little bit of a Q&A, shoot us or drop us a line. We'd love to have some other guests on the pod. But for now, we are subbing out and see you on the next one.